Welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your time. We're just going to give it another moment here for folks to join. I know we had a couple people that said they would be logging in today, and I don't see those specific folks that told me they'd be here. So just going to give it another minute, then we'll get started. But I do know how valuable your time is. You know, time is one of those things. Once it's spent, you can't get it back. So we want to keep it on point and keep it moving so we don't waste it, right? You'll find that's a big part of the whole ethos of our self-help program. We want to maximize everybody's time to maximize the effort to achieve the goals of each and every one of you owning a home. And you got a lot of stuff to balance, and so do we. So we try to, again, keep it on point. All right, welcome. We do have some more folks joining now. Welcome. We got some more folks joining now. Appreciate you guys. We'll go ahead and we'll get going now. And if you do want to catch this recording, it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel after it's done. So if you want to go back and watch it again, feel free. Also, if you have any friends that might be a good fit, feel free to share it with them. We'll send you guys the link. You'll have the link and you can share it. But as you know, well, as you will know, the self-help method requires us to have a certain number of participants. So if you have friends and family that might want to also do the program and build their own home alongside you, it can sometimes help the process because we have to have we try to have a group of 8 at a time. So anyway, I'll get going into all the details. Thank you again. My name is Jason. I'm with Central Rappahannock River Habitat for Humanity. And today you're attending our 523 Mutual Self-Help Housing Program presentation. We serve Caroline, Essex, Westmoreland, Richmond County, and King and Queen. So that's where the homes will be built. So if you don't already live in one of them, you do have to be okay living here. I also want to mention we do give priority to folks who already live in the counties. You know, we are very fortunate. The local governments all support us, but we did have to tell them that we will certainly try to house the people who already live in their area. You know, doesn't mean we can't build for folks out of the area. You know, the way our regional economy is, you might live in Caroline and work in Spotsy, or you might live in Spotsy and work in Caroline, and so it's okay. I've never had to turn anybody down yet. But one day we may have so many people that already live and work in these counties we serve that we may have to, but it hasn't happened yet. And we've been doing this for 5 years. So I don't want to discourage anybody, but I just like to be straight up about everything. All right. So about us, actually, we were formed locally in 1996. And this year coming up is actually Habitat's 50th anniversary nationwide. It was started in 1976 by the Fullers. And, you know, we're in every state of the nation. We're in many countries around the world. But we operate as a local affiliate. So, again, the area we serve is Caroline, Essex, Westmoreland, King and Queen, and Richmond County. We operate a couple different programs. We also operate a teachers, first responders program, and recently added healthcare workers to that as well. So if you happen to be in that profession, there is some other options available for you. You are certainly welcome to do self-help. And one thing I like to say about self-help, and really one of the main reasons I'm in this professionally is one of my personal reasons is ownership not only gives you an affordable payment, but it's going to supercharge your wealth. It's going to let you build wealth for your family, which will help your kids and everything. The self-help program, out of all of our programs, it is supercharged in wealth. The last 4 we completed, everybody moved in with $75,000 to $100,000 equity. So that's what they get for going through the process of building their own home. If you choose one of the other routes, if you're a teacher or first responder, you're not going to get that kind of equity. You will build equity as you make your payments and the market rises. But the self-help supercharges it. So it's a really, really fantastic way to not only have a great payment, great house that's safe for your kids, but also build your wealth. All right, what is self-help housing? The program gathers together 4 to 8 families. And when I say families, you don't have to be a family. You can be a single person. You can be retired. You can be first time home buyer. You don't have to be a first time home buyer, but you can't currently own a home. But so I don't want to exclude the single people. I'm single, and if I needed a program, I wouldn't want to be excluded just because I don't have, a wife and kids and stuff. Um, but the main thing is the group contributes 65% of the labor of building each other's homes. The labor is called sweat equity, and it essentially it provides the down payment for the home. The goal of this program that the USDA has is that you move in with at least 20% equity. That's a substantial amount. Let's say the home appraises at 300,000, and that means that we'd want you to move in with, let's see, 20 times 3, $60,000 equity, right? That's the goal, right? To get you in with at least 20% equity. We've actually had a lot more than that until this year. This is the first year it was in the 20s. We're at like 22% for the homes we're doing now. But last year and the years before, we were bringing in 32 to 36% equity. But what we're seeing is just like everything, costs going up, cost more. Lots are crazy. We're paying almost $100,000 a lot for lots in Caroline. Some of our more rural areas that we haven't built in yet, we do expect them to be a little bit more affordable, but they're still going to have costs. So, but some benefits of this program, just like the Habitat model, it encourages self-reliance and hard work to build your own home. It facilitates ownership opportunities by combining the mortgage that we'll talk more about with the savings you get from the sweat equity. What's interesting, I love about it is our self-help buyers become great homeowners. I mean, I'm not saying the teachers and first responders, if you don't build your own home, you won't, but you get an education on your home. Let's say 15 years from now, you need some repairs. Plumber comes in and says, I got to bust a hole in this wall to get to your pipe or whatever. And they're like, nope, that's not where my stuff is. I did it. I know. And so it makes you really educated. And when you're doing repairs, many of those repairs you can do yourself, which will save you tremendous amounts of money. So you do get a lot of skills through the program as well. All right. So about the program, we'll start with the loan requirements first. The loan, honestly, is the easiest part for me to work out for you because I can't work out the sweat equity part for you. You got to do that yourself. But I myself and my team, we can help you with getting the loan. Whether it takes us 6 months to get you qualified or 2 years, we can help you. It's something that we're good at. So this is the main things that are required. Your DTI is the most critical. It is basically how much you pay for your home payment versus your other debts. So they don't want your home payment to be any more than 30% of your adjusted household income. They also want your whole DTI. This includes your home payment and other debts, credit cards, student loans, car payments, personal loans, anything like that. Can't be more than 42% with your payment. Now, when you're calculating your DTI, you only have to add what's on your credit report. And you don't add the whole balance of the loan. You add the monthly minimum payment. That's how they calculate your monthly DTI. So what you do is you take all your minimum payments, you add them together. That's going to give you a number. Then you divide that by your adjusted household income. And it's hard for you to do the adjusted part. So basically what I say is just do it before they take your taxes out. But what is happening with adjusted gross, we've all heard the saying, oh, that's gross, they took these taxes out. Well, in this case, gross can actually help you because if you have children or if you have a disability or if you're over 62 or let's say you got a parent living with you or something like that, their income, it'll be grossed up. Like you get almost $1,000 credit for a child. So let's just use a number. Let's say you make $35,000, right? You got one kid. Your adjusted gross income would go up to about $36,000. That's just a rough number. There's a calculator that we use, USDA provides us, which gives us that numbers when we put in your household specifics. But it doesn't. The the gross is not as gross as when you see them taking your taxes out, right? And then the other thing that's almost just as important, really it is just as important, is repayment ability. We have to show that you can make the payments. Now, so what does that mean? That means 2 years of stable, dependable income and a credit history that shows you do pay your bills. There's not a specific number on your credit score that we would use to decline you. Your credit score cannot be a declining factor. But if your score is over 640, it does become easier. We don't have to provide as much documentation. They figure if you're over 640, you're pretty good at managing credit, and they're just going to roll with it. If you're below 640, doesn't mean we decline. You've got to look at your credit report. We got to make the case. We got to, let's say you had some late payments 6-7 months ago. Ask, hey, why was the payments late? Well, grandma was sick. I had to go to North Carolina and take care of her for 2 weeks. I missed work. We understand that things happen. Life happens. Now, if you got 12 months of late payments, there's not a lot you can say about that. I mean, you can say, hey, I was sick. Maybe you were battling a critical, illness or injury, and it took you that long to recoup. And unfortunately, that's not gonna be one of the valid reasons. But the thing is, most folks, when you apply, we can get you qualified within 6 to 12 months. And I'll talk more about that in a bit. Repayment ability is also, they look at your work history. They want to see 2 years of stable, dependable income. They also prefer, especially if your score is below 640, that you've been with the same employer during the 2 years. However, I will add, if you are, let's say you're working at Target and Walmart's going to give you $2 an hour and you switch jobs, that's okay. It's the same industry. As long as it's the same industry and you show you're moving because you want to get more money and raises, we get it. We can explain that. Also, if you happen to be a recent college graduate, there are certain professions that are such high demand that they know if we show a letter that you're getting a job offer, that you've got this job offer, we can sometimes work with you there too, like healthcare workers, teachers, things like that. So if you have a college degree and you just graduated and you haven't been able to work for 2 years, we can make that case for you. Income does vary by county. So if you are looking at our service area, Caroline County, a family the size between 1 and 4 can make up to $86,550. Any more than that, unfortunately, self-help isn't going to work for you. If you're a larger family between 5 and 9, you make up to $114,250. Then Essex for 1 to 4, $63,100. And then, of course, I won't read them all. It looks like everybody is watching via video here, or you're on YouTube watching it later, so you can read those numbers yourself. But that's there. But I do like to add the caveat: if you need more than a 4-bedroom home because of the size of your family, that does make it a little harder for us. And most of our area is rural. Most of it doesn't have public utilities. Caroline has more than any of the counties we serve, so it's a little easier there. Essex has a little bit. Westmoreland has a little bit. But overall, all of those areas require well and septic. And so we have to do soil tests. We got to make sure that the soil will support a larger family and the soil can handle the absorption of the waste. So that's a process. And unfortunately, those lots that do larger homes, they usually, I don't say always, but many of them are too expensive for us to build affordable homes on. Now, if there's public utilities, it's way easier because there's no soil tests that are required for your septic system. So that is just something to keep in mind. All right, minimum income requirements. This is the reason this is here is because I got to make sure I can get you enough of a loan to build a home. As I mentioned, these costs are crazy. The ones I'm building in Caroline right now are costing anywhere from $280,000 to about $304,000. So I got to get you enough of a loan to do that. Caroline, we have a very well history of delivering homes. We've built all of our homes in Caroline, And so the minimum we can do there is 36. If you're close, we can talk, we can work with you. There's some options. Then that's adjusted gross. So let's say, again, for example, let's say you're at 34,000 and you got 3 kids. That would gross you enough to qualify if you were at 34,000, because you're going to get, you're probably going to get earned income tax credits. You're going to get write-offs on your taxes, all of that kind of stuff, which is factored in. Now, Essex, Westmoreland, King, Queen, and Richmond County, we haven't built there yet. So I am going off of historical, what the market goes for. And those properties, we're thinking that you can make 30,000 and qualify. But I will tell you, hoping it'll be less. You know, I mean, when I first started in Caroline, you could make 25,000 because we were able to get lots there. But, you know, that was 2019. And now here we are, you know, 6 years later almost from our first builds, and just costs have went up. I mean, we literally paid 25 grand. We're paying 95,000 now in Caroline. So you see how much it's went up in 6 years. So when we get in these other counties and we start to see what size lot you need and where maybe you can live, because we don't want to put you somewhere where, you know, you can't get to work like you need to. Also, think of this, right? You might be like, okay, I live in Caroline now, and all my family lives here. Maybe mom watches the kids. You know, if we go and we put you in Richmond County, you're going to lose all of that support you might have. So there's a lot that goes into this when we do this. And we're not saying that we, you know, we won't put you in another county if you really want it, but we want to make sure you've thought it through to make sure you're successful. Because if you don't have a babysitter anymore, maybe, you know, grandma or aunt or uncle or somebody was watching it, and then now suddenly you got to pay for childcare, that can really make it so you might not be successful at owning a home because it's so expensive. Or let's say you got, you know, medical conditions and you need to be closer to a rescue squad or something like that. You know, like, so again, we want you to have choices, but we also want to make sure you can be successful. So before we put you anywhere out of your normal county, we're going to have that conversation with you and make sure you've thought through these things, so that at the end of the day, 3 years from now, if for some reason you can't do it and your home is you have to sell it, or it's repossessed, God forbid, you know, my staff wants to sleep at night, right? We're here to make people successful. We don't want to put you in a losing situation. So we kind of act as that, you know, voice of reason, or whether the little Jiminy Cricket on your shoulder, if you will. So you do what's best for you, but we're certainly going to talk through some of the things just because we've seen it time and time again. I mean, we're trained to do this. All of my staff have been through hours and hours of training, and they go through hours and hours every year. So it's important to make sure that you listen to the guidance that we give you, and then you make the right decision. But I am, again, hoping to bring these income levels down. I will add that we're really trying, and your group would be probably next spring or summer, depending on how many I got. I got to have, you know, we try for 8. We can do a smaller group, but 8 really is our goal. So we want to have 8 people to start by the spring of next year. And we're trying for this group. You guys, if you're in it, you might be the very first ones, but we're trying to layer down payment assistance that the state has with self-help. So if we can successfully do that, it will make it so we can put lower income people in these homes. But I can't promise that yet. But we are working diligently. I say that just so you guys know how hard we're working to try to make this work for more and more people. Income, again, it's got to be 2 years of stable, dependable. Something that is interesting, USDA works with a lot of farms, so seasonal work is there. A lot of farm workers, they may make all their money in the harvest season, then they sit around the rest of the year. Maybe they work a little part-time gig somewhere. That's allowed. This is, you know, in rural areas, they understand that. But how that relates to us is, let's say you're a small business owner and you have, you sell retail, right? And you make most of your money in the last quarter of the year. That's why they call Black Friday, because it puts all the businesses between that time and Christmas. That's really when they make all their profit for the most part. At least that's what they say. I don't believe them, but that's what they say. So, but if you're a small business owner and you make all your money at a certain time of the year, maybe you're in a travel agency or something like that, and there's certain times of the year you make more than others. That's okay. As long as we can explain it, it's okay. All right, sweat equity hours. This is the next part, and I do this part because this is the hardest part. This is the part that you have to work out. We can give you guidance, we can give you tips that other people have done, but it is like having a part-time job for a year. You sign a labor agreement with all the other families and with us and with the USDA that says that your household will put in 24 to 30 hours a week. Now, ever since COVID has ended, we've been back to 24 hours. But during 2021, 2020, volunteers couldn't come out. We had to ask our families to do 30 hours. That 6 hours makes a big difference. So we're trying to reduce those numbers as much as we can. We've been, last builds, it was 24. But again, you sign this thing saying you can't do 30. So if no volunteers ever show up, we got to finish your homes in 12 months. Now, there are rules. Let's say it snows all year and there's acts of nature, and hurricane season is bad and we just can't get out there. Then there are, we got to document it, but sometimes it can take longer than 12 months. But ideally, 12 months is how long they want it to take. There are some credit requirements. Let me go back to sweat equity for a minute. I should mention that you don't have to do the hours alone. We have what's called a surrogate program, and this is usually where you would get a family member or a friend who really cares about you and wants to help you get your hours. If you're disabled, you can have up to 3 surrogates if you can't do the work yourself. If you're a single person, no other adults in your house, you can have 2 surrogates. If you're a couple with 2 adults, you can have 1. The idea is each house would have 3 able-bodied folks to get their hours. So typically, again, these are people that love you and want to help you. What I always tell people is it's important for you to look at your schedule, figure out how many hours you can get, and then you talk to your family and friends. Because if you just come at them and say, hey, I need you to do every Saturday or every whatever, it may not be that. You're going to have to get the most hours you can. I'll tell you the reason why is it's 12 months. You're going to move in with a bunch of equity. Your friend or your family member isn't. They're doing this out of the goodness of your heart. And I'm telling you, I don't care who you are, you're going to get burned out giving up 8 hours a week or 6 hours a week, because you still got all your other stuff going on. So it's important that you really look at your schedule. You say, okay, I know I can get this many hours, but I need a little help with this. And then you recruit the appropriate people to help you. All right, credit requirements. One cool thing about this is your credit score is not a declining factor. If your score is above 640, it's a lot easier for us to do your loan. There's less paperwork required. Any accounts and collections must be addressed with either a payment plan or a payoff before we could get you a loan. Interesting about this is if you were to pay it off, and let's say you make a settlement, after 6 months, you're good to go. But if you can't pay it off, let's say it's larger, you would negotiate a minimum monthly payment with this collections agency, get it documented that that's an agreed upon thing, and then make those payments for 12 months. After you've done that, even if the account is still in collections, you would be able to move forward as long as your DTI lines up. That minimum payment, it's important to understand this, is now going to become one of those numbers you got to add into your debt to income ratio. Basically, it must make sense, right? If you have 12 months of late payments, we're not going to probably be able to justify that. But if you had a scenario where you had a month or 2 or 3 that things happened, we can say, hey, what happened? Well, maybe grandma got sick and I had to do this or that. I couldn't work. So as long as it makes sense. Again, DTI, that's a big one. Your home payment can't be more than 30%. with your payment insurance, taxes, any HOA fees. Caroline, we're building our first HOA neighborhood now. Previously, we haven't dealt with that, but I anticipate more and more that's going to be happening because local governments now in the state pretty much require, if you build a new neighborhood, you almost got to have an HOA. It's just kind of one of those requirements because people knock them, but HOAs really truly are a good thing. If you come from a rural setting and then you're suddenly going into a neighborhood where, everybody's side by side, you can see everybody's house from your deck, and your house is maybe 30 feet apart, right? Like, you want to make sure everybody has a common understanding of, what is appropriate for your neighbor. Like, you can't leave junked out cars, that are sitting on blocks. You can't have a, stereotypical couch, on the front yard where you sit. You know what I mean? You can't have a neon greenhouse. So there's mutually agreed upon things saying, hey, we're a community. These are the things we're going to have in common. And I can tell you, I live in a very dense neighborhood. I don't live in a rural area. I live in Spotsy, and my neighbors are 15 feet from me. And, it's a lot of renters, not knocking renters, but one year I'll have a really good neighbor. The next year I'll have a really bad one. But if it wasn't for the HOA to keep the bad ones in check, it could impact the value of my house, right? If they let their house fall apart and somebody don't want to sell my house, does anybody want to move next to a house that's all junky? So when you're in this tight areas, neighborhoods, it's almost essential. The only reason we wouldn't be doing it is when we do what's called infill building, and that's where you're building in neighborhoods that maybe have been there for a long time and they didn't require HOAs, but it is there. And then the other thing is your debt. Your other debt I mentioned is no more than 12%. And there's tons of free DTI calculators online. Just Google DTI calculator, you'll get it right there. And if you have a banking app, like most people do, I bet you if you look on your banking app, you'll probably have one there too. So I know I bank with Wells Fargo, and they have one on my app. Another thing that's required is homebuyer education. And a lot of this depends on the level of education that's required, depends on if we have to go after any additional grants for you. And by grants, that's usually down payment grants. Those might require HUD counseling. Whereas if we don't have to go through a grant, we just need to get you one of these good loans and your sweat equity is enough, then just a simple online course through Virginia Housing will qualify. So it just depends. It's all based on your circumstances and what we got to do to get you into a house. After a review of your circumstances, we connect you with the partners and ensure you know who, what, when, and where. Like if you need the HUD counseling, we have a national online partner that will provide that for you free of charge. If you just need the other education, it's online through Virginia Housing website, but we'll connect you with anybody that you need after we review your file and determine what's going on. Out-of-pocket expenses, there is a program application fee of $60 if you're one person. If there's two adults on the application, it's $120. And that is what they charge us to pull your credit. So we do have to review that. Later on down the line, when we turn your application in for the loan, the USDA does have a $32 application fee as well. That check or money order would not be made out to us. And you only have to provide that when we tell you to, when we ask you to, I should say. Up until then, it's just simply a program. We're trying to get you there, but the idea is to get you from program to loan. So that's something that's important. Also, with the self-help program, because of how it works, you close on your loan, you own the lot, you own the home while it's under construction. You have to cover the cost of the first year's insurance. But you can get reimbursed that at closing. So typically 3-4 days before closing, you'll show me proof that you've got homeowners insurance. Based on what your income and based on how much money you have and what your comfort level is, we can put that in the loan, and when you close, you'll actually get a check in the mail reimbursing you for that. Or many of the folks will say, hey, I don't want to borrow that, I'll just pay for it. And then you can do that as well. But you have to have that first year's coverage. The reason being is your home payments are deferred until you move in. And so you're not making a payment to build up your escrow account. And the escrow account is what pays your taxes and your insurance. Another thing you'll have to do is while your home is under construction, you'll have to pay real estate taxes. Until your home is moved in and you get an occupancy permit, you're only paying really essentially for the value of the lot. So it's a very, very small amount. It's usually $30 to $50 twice a year. So you do have to cover that. Now, once you move in and you get occupancy, all of that is collected in your escrow account, and your USDA pays them at the appropriate time, just like your homeowner's insurance. After the first year, it's paid by, through the USDA because you're making that as part of your payment. Another thing, you will have to get some small tools and safety equipment, a tool belt, hammer, hard hat, safety glasses, gloves, etc. We have a list we give you. You may ask, why do I need a tool belt? Believe it or not, that's more for safety than anything. I just want to tell you why. And all of these things are like your tennis shoes, right? Like you can buy, a pair of Skechers for $20, or you can buy a pair of Jordans for $1,000, right? So you don't have to get the fancy stuff. I have a tool belt I paid $19.99 for that works just fine. Hammer, you probably already got that. Hard hat, same thing. They're not expensive. Typically $50 to $100, depending on how much bling you want to have on the stuff, then that'll cover that. We provide all the big tools, all the power tools and all of that stuff, but you do need to have that. And the tool belt, I guess I got off track there, but to give you an idea why that's needed, why it's considered safety equipment, is you might be holding materials. You might be on a ladder and you might have to hammer a nail in, or you might have to cut something or whatever, and you can't go up and down that ladder every time you need a tool. You might got other people holding it, so you got to be able to grab that stuff when you need it, so you can function properly on a build site. All right, how to get an application? You just simply email us at admin@habitatofcaroline.org or call us. We're there pretty much Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. You can talk to a live person. You can also leave a voicemail after hours if you want to. But I got staff now that handles all of the applications and stuff, so I'm not really the person to process these things anymore. So I still help you, and I'm still training my staff some. So I'm involved. A lot of times you might hear them when you call in. They might call out to me in my office, hey, what about this or what about that? And so certainly there, but I'm not going to be your point of contact anymore. My main job now is to get property to build houses for you and get money to build houses for you. So I got a staff person who does all of the loans now. And then, of course, we've always had our construction team out there. But you do have to give this code when you call in or email. The code is JT96, JT96. Please don't share this code. We want to make sure everybody has watched the presentation, or they have live or on our YouTube channel. And it will be on our YouTube channel if you want to watch it again. And I encourage you, if you have friends or family that are, similar income levels, please feel free to share it with them. We need a group of 8. That's what we need to really be successful. We can do it with a smaller group, but it does make it more difficult. When you got 8, believe it or not, it gives you a larger workforce, so you can spread it out more, and it allows us to work more days when you have a larger group. And then usually, too, a larger group, that means they have a larger circle of maybe tapping into the community, right? Like, not everybody goes to church, but if you do, you can tell your church, hey, I'm building a home for Habitat. I'm building in my house with Habitat. And your church might decide to volunteer and help you. And the more volunteers we get, the easier it is for you. All right. And at this time, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. I do want to share, here's some helpful links that you can use if you want to learn more about self-help. That first link is our national website. Second link is the USDA program. Third is Credit Karma. Know what's on your credit. And then that's in particular, if we got to help you get your credit better, that's a good way to track and monitor your credit. And then lastly, you can get an annual credit report for free from annualcreditreport.com. This is our flagship model. It's 3-bedroom, 2-bath, age in place design. Notice there's no steps there. So what's cool about that is you get older, you don't have to worry about having to live outside of your home. And another interesting fact about this is, and this is really important, if you ever go to sell it, you got to find a real estate agent who knows what this means. This increases the value of your home dramatically, not so much on the appraisal front, right? Appraisals are based on square footage. So it's like your house is this size. They look at houses in the market that are similar sizes, and that's how they come up with a price. But this house is on a premium because our nation has a critical shortage of aged in place housing. So you got a lot of wealthy seniors that, that have made tons of money on their homes. Now they can't live in them because they got to go up and down steps, right? So they're literally snatching these things up off the market almost as quick as they're put on there, because this is truly age in place. No steps to get in. One of your bathrooms is ADA adaptable, meaning if you had to even be in a wheelchair, some modifications, maybe change the shower, maybe change the toilet, have to be done. But you're never going to have to knock walls down. You're never going to have to widen doorways. They're already 36 inches. It's the bathroom's already large enough to turn around in a wheelchair if you need be. Might have to put in a roll-in shower is what it's called, but you're not going to knock any walls down. So instead of having to spend 20 grand in remodeling your house, you might spend 5 grand, right? So it allows you to live in here, from your whole life, from start to finish. And it's 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And what we recommend that you do with this is, and this is usually the ADA bathroom that you would do this on. One of the bathrooms, you would just do a walk-in shower. It's not a roll-in shower, so there's still a little lip. You know what I mean? There's still a lip to keep the water in the tub and all of that. But most Americans don't need a roll-in shower. But almost every American, when they get 65, 70 years old, a step-in shower is going to really make their life a lot easier. I got elderly parents now. They don't have a step-in shower, and it's danger. Every time my dad has to step into this tub, he's got to lift his leg up. He's got a lot of mobility issues. He's got to lift his leg up over there. And so that's something that really we encourage people to do is, one of the bathrooms have a tub. Everybody likes to soak once in a while. And if you got kids, you almost got to have a tub. And then, but if you have that step-in shower, it really will accommodate most people. But if, God forbid, something does happen, you could, just modify it and continue to live in there. All right. So again, anybody got any questions?